participate in the discussion. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thanks to you, Kibet, and thanks for your introduction. My name is Franka Brüggen. I'm a medical student from Germany, and now you can also see me. Thanks for the host. I'm very happy to be here and share some of our thoughts with you and get, especially most importantly, into exchange with all of you. I would like to continue after the introduction to the medical aspects of COVID-19 on some of our thoughts about the political impacts of the pandemic and on some similarities between the medical and the political practice. Firstly, it is undeniable that the interventions taken by the governments all over the world are unique in their extent and their impact on our personal lives. These decisive measurements have only been supported because society understood their necessity. The principle of flatten the curve was most prominent in the media and reached the mind of many people. It's just the same in daily interaction with our patients. Education is a key point when we want to achieve a good medication adherence. People must understand why we are asking them to take these drugs or stop smoking. Secondly, we saw most governments acting before the actual disaster took place in their countries. Although we had the horrible example of Italy, where we saw what would happen if we simply moved on in our daily business, many other governments were capable of preventing such a disastrous situation by implementing appropriate measurements beforehand. Once again, a similarity can be drawn to one major principle of medical practice: prevent what you cannot treat. We realized that the ICU capacities available are simply not enough to cope a sharp peak of COVID-19 cases. Thus, the only sensible conclusion was to mitigate such a sharp peak. Lastly, I would like to emphasize the impact of science on political decisions in these days. Many decisions regarding the lockdowns were based on WHO guidelines and scientific studies. Just like the evidence-based medicine was a major step forward to better healthcare quality, this has given us an idea of what evidence-based politics could achieve. Personally, I also think that it's essential now to transfer the experiences we made in this crisis to other debates. And I would briefly like to show you how this could work at the example of nuclear disarmament. In 1945, 2 Japanese cities were attacked by nuclear bombs, and for the first time, Japanese citizens experienced the unimaginably dreadful consequences of these weapons. Since then, our world has changed a lot. And with one of the first UN declarations, the global community agreed on the goal of a nuclear-free world. Even in the NPT, the nuclear weapon states agreed that they would work for nuclear disarmament worldwide. Despite these goals, the stockpiles grew with a peak in the 80s, and still today we have about 14,000 warheads. With time, our knowledge about the short and long-term effects of a nuclear explosion grew, and as you might have seen in the videos we shared with you before this webinar, we have plenty of evidence today that in case of a nuclear attack, no country in the world would have enough ICU units to treat the victims. Over the last months, we've been doing everything we could to prevent people from dying of coronavirus. But at the same time, we're accepting the great threat of a nuclear explosion for 75 years now. People might say, these are just horror scenarios and a nuclear war will never erupt. But how can you be sure about this? When there are about 2,000 warheads placed on hair trigger alert, very vulnerable to personal or tactical failure. When most nuclear weapon states are involved in regional or international conflicts. When disarmament treaties such as the INF Treaty are terminated without any replacements. And when all nuclear weapon states are modernizing their arsenals. Additionally, the global pandemic of COVID-19 has proved us that the unlikely can happen, and it showed us what enormous consequences we must bear when we let the unlikely happen. As we've seen in the last weeks, politicians and societies are willing to act foresighted and accept change when they understand the necessity. So let's explain them the evidence in favor of complete nuclear disarmament and why we have no other choice but ban these weapons now. I thank you very much, and I'm very keen and interested in your questions and exchange later in the debate. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much, Franca. I know you also had a quick poll question, so I'll launch that now. It's, would you like to learn more about the humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons? So be sure to vote in that poll right now. I'll leave it open and share the results in a little bit. And while we wait for that, I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Takahisa, very affectionately known as Hisa Taniguchi, who's a climate activist from Osaka, Japan. He'll be joining us now. So take it away, Hisa.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your introduction. It's an honor to be here. I'm Takahisa Taniguchi from Japan and currently living in Germany and Düsseldorf. And my activities, I give lectures about climate change, mostly in Japan and all over the world, to believe that I think even though the climate change, I think many of you already know that climate change is quite a serious problem. And I think one of the biggest problems that human race has ever confronted. But I believe that the hope relies in the fact that not everybody knows, or I think almost nobody knows what exactly is going on, how serious it is, and what is going to happen if we do not take action now. So I give lectures about climate change, about what's happening all over the world, like focusing on 5 irregular events because of climate change, such as drought and hurricane, typhoon, heavy rain, and flood, and change of ecosystem, drastic change of ecosystem, and forest fire, and ice melting. And I also like talk about why it's happening, not of course only because of its like greenhouse gases, but also I talk about the consciousness, people's consciousness, and the system, about like monetary system of the day, I mean, the time being. And also like I talk about what we can do to stop it. And lastly, the hope with the climate change, which is it affects every single one of us, which means it's the last and the best chance for us, for like human race to be united and be the one. And also I talk about like the carbon budget, which is now like when compared to the pre-industrial level, the Earth temperature has been risen by 1 degree, and for the current rate, it's going to be like we've got the one carbon budget is that like if we want to stay below like 1.5 degree, like where compared to a pre-industrial level, there is some sudden amount of like CO2 we can emit, and with the current pace, it's going to be used up in 7 years and 8 to like 9 months. We have to stay like below 1.5 degrees, because if once like it gets like 2 degrees higher than pre-industrial level, the difference between like 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees is that I'm going to explain. Hundreds of million more people will be at risk of climate-related poverty. And second, ocean become hotter and absorb less carbon dioxide. And third, ice-free summers are 10 times more likely, habitat losses for polar bears and whales and etc., etc. And fourth, sea level rise would affect 10 million more people by 2100. And the proportion of the global population exposed to water stress could be doubled. And virtually all of the wild leaves, which absorb carbon dioxide, would be lost. And marine fisheries would lose like twice more, which is like 3 million tons. And more extreme hot days increase heat-related deaths and cause more forest fires. And insects vital for like pollination of crops, and the plants are twice as likely to lose half of their habitat. And tipping points may lie between 1.2 degrees, so climate breakdown may become unstoppable for humans. So we have to stay like below 1.2 degrees, and with the current pace, the carbon budget is going to be used up in 7 years and 8 months or 9 months. And even though pretty much everybody has heard of the world climate change, but I've been like going around the world to give lectures about climate change, and not many people knew like about how serious it is and what's going on and what's going to happen if we do not take action now. So I strongly believe, as I said, let me say it again. I strongly believe that the first thing we have to do is like let everybody know what's going on and what's going to happen if we do not take action now. And secondly, I would like to, let me like keep explaining about my activity. I also organize climate march in Japan. It's been more than 10 times. And the lectures I made in Japan in 2019 from October to December within 3 months was 160 times. And I also like made speeches, lectures in more than like 10 countries about climate change. And I also do dispatching information about climate change through SNS, like such as Facebook or Instagram and weblog. And that's all for my activity. And secondly, I would like to talk about the linkage between today's main issues and like possible collaboration between them. Firstly, let me talk about nuclear weapon. Even though the issue is like nuclear weapon, let me explain about nuclear power plant because I'm from Japan and I believe everybody is aware of what happened in Fukushima in 2011. The nuclear power plants have to be located near like seas, near coast, on the coast, because they have to be cooled down with the like seawater, and as like they have to be located like on the coast. Fukushima happened because of tsunami, but what happened in Spain in February, like 2020, this year, is that like it hit by like strong storm and a very high wave, and the height of the wave was the same height of the tsunami which hit Fukushima. So the same height of tsunami can, wave can hit the coast like in all over the world because of climate change. Of course, the characteristic of tsunami and the waves are different, but still nobody knows what's going to happen once the such high waves hit the nuclear power plants. And we even have nuclear power plants like working in Japan, like 9 nuclear power plants, and we've got the biggest one in the world in Niigata Prefecture, which is near Tokyo. And secondly, I would like to talk about social justice. Even though the climate change is happening because of greenhouse gases, and the biggest polluters and biggest emitters, mostly or like all of them, the country, like developed countries. But even though the biggest like emitters are like developed countries, still the countries most vulnerable to the climate change, countries in poverty, like mostly in southern hemisphere, so which is not fair at all. So that's what we have to think of when we talk about climate change and social justice. And lastly, I would like to talk about coronavirus. Like some scientists reported the root cause of coronavirus and the climate change is the same thing, which is like the humans have been like invading the nature habitats, which like human race has never invaded before, or entered before. So which means, and then we had contact with like wild animals we never had contact before. So that's some scientists say that's the root cause of coronavirus. And also like the climate change is happening because of the invading the nature habitat and for some kind of natural resources. That's the linkage between coronavirus and climate change. And lastly, I would like to talk about the root cause of this, like the 4 issues: climate change and nuclear power and social justice and coronavirus. I believe this is because of the current monetary system. Even though everybody has never doubted about the monetary system of today, because it's been there since like we have been born, but there was some kind of different system of money issued in like Austria or Germany. Even Germany, like there is still like different system of money like issued, which is money, like the money depreciates like whose value over time. Like for example, it gets 10% lower the value like it's very difficult to explain. Like if you have $100 in 1 year, you're going to have like $90, and in 10 years you're going to have none. So why they are doing that way is that, like, even though every single natural thing loses their value over time, only money doesn't lose their value. So even though money is to be swapped or exchanged for like natural things like earth resources or human time, but that kind of characteristic makes like money much stronger than things like you can exchange about money. So for the money, we try to not try, but we kind of unconsciously admit anything else can be neglected. So that's, I think, the root cause of like the issues we have today. If we like talk about like issues, then if we like think of the root causes, we cannot ignore like money is behind them. So I would like to talk about that as well today. Okay, that's all from me. I'll wait for the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hisa. That was wonderful. Next up, we have Minoru Koyama, President of the Democratic Youth League of Japan, and Chihiro Tahara, Chair of the High School Student Paper Crane Project to Connect Tokyo and New York. We are so excited to hear from you two. Please take it away.
ご紹介ありがとうございます。日本民主青年同盟の小山実と言います。世界中の同世代と議論できることを嬉しく思っています。今日は高校生の田原千尋さんと共に核兵器の廃絶のためにどうやって青年の中に世論を広げるのか、私たちの日本での努力について発言します。まず、核兵器をなくしたいという思いは日本の青年に共通しています。同時に、デモをなくせないのではないかと考える青年も少なくありません。その背景には日本政府の姿勢があります。日本の政府は相変わらず日本はアメリカの核の傘で守ってもらっていると主張して、核兵器禁止条約にも背を向けています。そこで、では核兵器をなくしたいけどなくせないのではないかと考える青年の中で、どうやって核兵器廃絶への世論と運動を広げるのか、私たちが大切にしていることについて3つ報告します。1つは被爆者の体験、決意、生き方に触れることです。被爆者の方々は思い出すのさえ辛い壮絶な体験を私たちに語ってくれます。なぜか、それは自らの体験を通して人類の危機を救おうという決意があるからです。私自身18歳の夏に広島を訪れ、涙ながらに訴える被爆者の方と出会い、その訴えをどう受け止めるか、自分たちに何ができるか、仲間たちと議論したことが原点です。被爆者の体験と核兵器をなくすために生きようという決意に触れて、自分はどうするのかを考えること、これが出発点だと思います。2つは、私たちの声と行動で核兵器をなくせるという展望を伝えることです。2017年の核兵器禁止条約の採択をもたらしたのは、被爆者を先頭にした市民社会の声と行動でした。私たちの声が動かしたのです。青年にとって自分の行動に世の中を動かす力があると理解できたら、どんなに勇気づけられるでしょうか。今や国際政治の主人公は一部の大国や政治指導者ではなくて、私たち一人一人の市民であるということをみんなの自信にしたいと思っています。3つに以上の2つを伝えながら、一人一人の青年と草の根で学び、語り合っていくことです。私たち日本の青年は、毎年8月に広島と長崎で開かれる原水爆禁止世界大会、これを節目に地域や学校で被爆体験を聞く会を開いたり、友達や同僚に被爆者国際署名への協力を呼びかけたりしています。民政同盟はこの春に 高校生の平和の願い届けるアクション to ニューヨーク2020というものに取り組みました。高校生から核兵器廃絶を願うメッセージを集めて、NPT 再検討会議が開かれるニューヨークに届ける運動です。民政同盟のメンバーが全国各地の街頭や高校門前で対話したり、高校生のメンバーが学校の友達と語り合ったりしてメッセージを集めました。高校生はみんな真剣に考え、例えば核兵器がなくなればみんな安心して暮らせるとか、1秒でも早く核兵器をなくしたいといったメッセージを書いてくれました。こうした行動の積み重ねが強固な世論を作り、日本政府に核抑止論から抜け出し、核兵器禁止条約へ批准するよう迫る力になると考えています。ではここで実際に高校生の中でこうした活動に取り組んでいる田原千尋さんに実際の様子を紹介してもらいたいと思います。
私は東京とニューヨークをつなぐ高校生折り鶴プロジェクト実行委員長の田原千尋です。私は去年、原水爆禁止世界大会に参加し、被爆者の方からお話を聞きました。そして日本は唯一の戦争被爆国なのに、核兵器禁止条約に署名・批准をしていない事実を知りました。これらがきっかけとなり、運動を始めました。東京の高校生で被爆者国際署名も5000筆集めてきました。そして去年の9月に原水爆禁止世界大会ニューヨークに向けて東京とニューヨークをつなぐ高校生折り鶴プロジェクトを始めました。これは日本の文化であり、平和のシンボルでもある折り鶴を高校生の平和の思いとしてニューヨークに届けようというものです。目標数は世界に存在すると言われている核兵器の数の14,525羽です。毎月集まり折り鶴を折る会をしました。集めた鶴を持ち寄り、核兵器禁止条約や NPT 再検討会議、日本政府の姿勢について学んだり、被爆証言を聞いたりしました。たこ焼きパーティーや鉄板焼きをしながら平和の思いを交流しています。私たちは友達や先輩にプロジェクトを広めることを第一に考え活動してきました。それは少しでも多くの人に原水爆禁止世界大会が初めてニューヨークで行われることや核兵器禁止条約の存在について知ってもらいたいと思ったからです。私も友達に呼びかけると好意的に協力してくれたので、気軽に呼びかけることも大切だと学びました。また朝登校すると私の机に折り鶴がきれいに並べられていたり、わざわざ届けに来てくれる先輩もいました。約半年間で目標の14,525羽を集めることができました。目標を達成を支えたのはメンバーの思いと行動でした。それは若者が動くと影響が大きい。高校生が行動していることを伝えたいと学校の休み時間に折っていたメンバーや、核兵器を持つこと自体が人類にとっての狂気であると友人と折ってくれたメンバー、平和への意思を示し、被爆者の方の思いを私たちが継承していかなければいけないと中学時代の友達にも連絡を取ったメンバーなど、一人一人の思いによって成し遂げられたものです。私たちの活動を見て、この取り組みは大事だと思ったから、クラスメートでおりましたと届けてくれた高校生もいました。活動が思いとともに広がって嬉しかったです。世界中で環境問題や核問題など、あらゆる問題に取り組んでいる若い人たちを見ると、とても勇気づけられます。その中の一員であると思うと、とても誇らしい気持ちになります。私たちは自分の問題として考え、世論を作っていくために行動することが大切だと思います。核兵器禁止条約に署名・批准する日本政府を作るために、私たちにできることは、同じ思いを持ち、 共に声を上げる仲間を増やすことだと考えます。それは小さな勇気の積み重ねであり、その積み重ねによってさらに大きな声を政府に届けていきたいと思います。そして私たち高校生の平和への強い思いで政府を動かし、被爆者と共に一日でも早く核兵器禁止条約に署名・批准させたいと思います。
ありがとうございました。今、世界は新型コロナウイルスの克服へ力を合わせています。この経験の中で、世界中の人々がもはや現在の儲け最優先の経済・政治システムと人類の生存は両立し得ないのではないかと考えるようになっています。国連のグテーレス事務総長は、コロナ後の世界について、現状復帰ではなくて、かつてより良い世界への復興をと訴えています。今日のこの青年集会が、かつてより良い世界、すなわち核兵器を廃絶し、気候変動を阻止し、格差、貧困のない世界を作るために、世界の青年の連帯を広げる契機となることを願います。共に頑張りましょう。以上です。ありがとうございました。
Great. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing with us. We're so glad to have you. Please continue to submit questions in the Q&A or make comments or questions in the chat, everyone. It's been great to see those coming in. Our next speaker is Rachel McCave. She is Intersections International Program and Administrative Associate. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel McCave, and as she mentioned, I'm a program associate at Intersections International, and we are one of the 5 ministries of the Collegiate Church in New York, and we are committed to global social justice in many ways. With special consultative status at the United Nations, our programs have reached over a dozen countries, as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and within the mainland United States. In our mission, we are committed to meeting the world's most urgent needs. And we do that by allowing our faith to guide us in seeking peace, justice, and reconciliation for those who need it the most. We believe that in order for peacemaking to work, there needs to be an adherence to established human rights and dignity for all people, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, religious affiliation, socioeconomic status, or country of birth. At Intersections, we convene diverse groups at the forefront of faith and reconciliation, and we break through barriers, we dispel stereotypes and false narratives, we cultivate a mutual understanding between people, and we embrace cooperation. And we believe in employing diplomacy in many ways that bring marked social change. Right now, we are living through very difficult times. Our world is experiencing a collective trauma that has already permanently reshaped our lives and our future. The COVID-19 pandemic has reached nearly every corner of the planet. Apart from the devastating public health consequences, this crisis has also deepened a lot of the inequalities that were already present in many of our societies. In the United States, for example, issues such as income inequality, unemployment, racial discrimination, and inadequate access to healthcare for communities of color, all these problems have gotten a lot worse. Preventative practices that have been suggested, such as social distancing and working from home, those are both privileges. There are many people whose living arrangements, for example, can't accommodate social distancing, or their jobs can't necessarily be done from home. And so now we have over 30 million people currently unemployed worldwide. It is important to take all of these inequalities into account when coming up with solutions for life post-COVID-19 and how we want to improve society for all people once this has passed. Social justice is directly linked to environmental justice. Climate change is another imminent threat to our global community, and it has led to an increase in extreme weather events worldwide. When natural disasters strike, marginalized populations such as minorities, women and children, the poor, the elderly, and LGBT individuals are more likely to be negatively impacted due to economic hardships that have resulted from being marginalized. In many places, social norms have also led to these groups being left out of disaster recovery relief efforts. At Intersections, we published a statement to the United Nations Commission for Social Development that outlines this problem, particularly in the Caribbean. For example, in Puerto Rico, Hurricanes Maria and Irma in 2017 have completely devastated the islands. And then another series of earthquakes hit in 2020. These events severely worsened inequalities for marginalized groups in many ways. This has led to housing insecurity and a very sharp decline in mental health for these vulnerable groups on the island. More so in the Bahamas, Hurricane Dorian last year completely destroyed infrastructure, housing, and the livelihoods of many people. However, the most vulnerable communities are the ones who are still traumatized and being impacted by this disaster today. Without equality, there can be no peace. And the key to sustainable peace is by targeting the source of inequality at every level. Advocacy, community organizing, diplomacy must all work together for justice and equality of all persons. There is no one size fits all that can dismantle this complex and interconnected issue that forms and makes up a lot of our social fabric. Climate change, the economy, public health, racial justice, and peace are all interconnected. It has taken a global pandemic to jolt us into re-examining these social ills that have deeply entrenched most of us all around the world. We cannot underestimate the power of human connection. Person to person, we can tackle prejudice by developing more empathy and creating true connections. When we distance from one another, it can easily lead to this idea of othering or fearing those who are not like us, who we don't understand. We become afraid of those who may have different religious views or cultural views or political views. And as a result, fear, lack of knowledge can lead to hatred, and under certain circumstances, it can also lead to violence and atrocities. By bringing people of different backgrounds together in dialogue and community, we foster a deep understanding of difference that can dispel stereotypes. This can be done through intercultural, interfaith, and international dialogue. One example of this work at Intersections is our most recent project in the Middle East. We helped fund the travel of Nigerian imams to Muscat, Oman, to participate in an interfaith peace-building workshop with our partners at the Alamana Center. Through programs like this, we engage with powerful social indicators such as religion and culture, and we engage with diverse leaders and advocates in order to continue confronting social justice in new and innovative ways. Young people play a crucial role in spearheading fresh ways to solve old problems. We are no longer settling for solutions and a status quo that no longer work. The betterment of our collective society has to be the primary goal. It is important to listen, empower, engage with the next generation of entrepreneurs, students, activists, thought leaders, inventors, policymakers, and so many other types of people, because ultimately young people will be the ones who carry this movement forward for the ensuing decades. Young people are excited and capable, and many of us are already actually finding ways to solve these socioeconomic problems in our communities. However, intergenerational conversations across different age groups and mentorships are also crucial components of developing the bandwidth of social change movements. We must learn from our history and those who came before us. We must all stand on someone's shoulder. Others will stand on ours. This work is plentiful, and we must find creative yet deeply rooted ways to make meaningful strides forward. So thank you, everyone, and I'm really looking forward to opening up the panel for discussion and answering any questions that I have.
Thank you so much, Rachel. What a great speech. Next up, we have Yasmeen Silva from Beyond the Bomb. Yasmeen has also been very, very involved in the planning process of this conference, and we are so excited to hear from her. I also want to note that right now we have 300 participants viewing this live. So we are so happy to have each and every one of you on. Please continue to write in the chat any questions or comments you have, and feel free to put question and answers. We will have a question and answer session at the end, and all of the speakers really, really want to hear from you. So Yasmeen, take it away.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to share my work with all of you here today. Every day with Beyond the Bomb, my job is to take the reality of nuclear weapons system in the United States and highlight the connections with other systems of oppression, while giving people opportunities to take action and make change. The World Conference and this Youth Assembly is amazing at highlighting the intersection of struggles across the world. My ultimate goal is to take the system of nuclear weapons that was developed in the backrooms of government, formerly reserved for men in suits with power and influence, democratize that system, and ultimately eliminate it by building a strong grassroots movement. We are all here because we believe not only that this is possible, but imperative. Now, I'm curious how many of you have taken concrete action before on an issue that you care about. So you should have gotten a poll that just popped up. I'll give that a minute and then continue. Moderators, if we could share the results in a few seconds, I would love to see what people are answering. So while we're waiting for that, I'd like to say that this gathering is so amazing for a number of reasons. It brings together people like me from around the world. And I'd like to take a minute to talk about my identity and how it shapes my thinking, and may mirror some of your stories of what brought you to the movement. So first, I'm young. Our generation did not grow up in the shadow of nuclear war in the way that other generations did. Second, I am a woman. We are still largely shut out of many important discussions on national policy. Third, I am the daughter of an immigrant. The issues that tangibly affect immigrant communities on a daily basis often take precedence over an abstract idea such as nuclear war. My identity has put me on the fronts of many battles for justice that are happening in the United States. So how can someone like me, a member of many groups that the system is meant to disenfranchise, fight back? Feminists continue to fight against gender-based violence and inequality. If recent elections, popular protests, and even this assembly are any indication, our generation is beginning to understand the power of collective action as a tool for challenging entrenched systems. People of all backgrounds are fighting to make sure that the world is a safe place for immigrants and refugees, and that your country of origin does not dictate where you are accepted or what you can do. All of these struggles speak to me personally. So why have I dedicated myself to the daunting task of eliminating nuclear weapons? Like my identity, the existence of the nuclear system touches on these fights as well. Nuclear weapons are talked about in gendered ways. Military discussions of nuclear weapons are often become measures of manhood. Countries who possess them are seen as masculine and potential targets as feminine, thus extending a paradigm of gender-based violence. The nuclear system in countries that possess them is designed to be undemocratic and act unilaterally on behalf of those deemed ill-equipped to make such decisions. Something that, as a young person involved in politics, I am used to hearing. Arguments for the use and need of nuclear weapons center around the dehumanization of foreigners and the trivialization of their suffering, a rhetoric we are familiar with from its use in issues like immigration and anti-refugee sentiment. It is crucial to recognize that we cannot effectively dismantle the nuclear system without also addressing its intersections with the societal structures that led to its creation. Our movement does not exist in a silo. Nuclear weapons are just one manifestation, a very frightening manifestation, of a larger system of oppression. And this system must be challenged wherever we see its effects. We are here to unite and find ways in this current time to make change on this. And so to address the poll, thank you, I got the results. It seems like most people have taken action and will do so again, or haven't but would like to, and that's really encouraging. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we can do and next steps later on. So with the COVID-19 crisis, it is more important than ever to be connected in our movements. In the United States, we are seeing this happen more than ever. At Beyond the Bomb, we have pivoted some of our nuclear work to work on healthcare, labor, and immigrants' rights. We know that in the United States and other places such as the Marshall Islands or other places around the world, those who live near nuclear testing, mining, and storage sites suffer many health complications. This makes them more susceptible to COVID-19. These places also have less infrastructure and lack access to really things like running water. Again, something that's imperative during this pandemic. It is important to protect those who are most vulnerable. Through our work, we are not only doing this, but educating people to the dangers that nuclear weapons pose, even if they're not used. But we can't lose sight of our goal. While uplifting and supporting these communities in their immediate struggle for safety, we are still pushing the United States government on a federal level to adopt common sense nuclear policies like no first use, and calling for diplomacy over war to maintain and re-enter important treaties. Our allies abroad are so critical in this work because the US government often says that countries who don't have nuclear weapons want us to keep ours to protect them. We need to counter this myth, and together, this assembly allows us to lay the groundwork. Our breakout sessions that will happen later on will do this and so much more. So I encourage you to attend our second installment of the Youth Assembly, and I can't wait to work together for a better world. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much, Yasmeen. And thank you to our incredible panel. I'm so glad that we could hear from all of you, and I'm excited to see the discussion continue. So before we open it up to audience Q&A, and as we begin our moderated questions, feel free to continue to submit in the Q&A. I know Molly and I have two questions that we'd like to pose to each panelist. So the first one is, how do we merge our movements and make sure that we're not working in silos? I know a lot of you mentioned the overlap of our issues and all of this. So maybe just 2 minutes per panelist in the same order you've spoken to respond to the first question. So Franca and Kelvin, would you like to answer first?
Yes, so I'll go first, and thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much for all the panelists for very nice presentations as well. I think that what's important when trying to form a movement is highlighting all of the issues that we have, and I think we have done it really greatly. And secondly would be finding areas where we all interconnect. So nuclear weapons and climate change are all interconnected in a way that if nuclear war or nuclear disaster happens, it affects climate change. And economic and social justice all interconnect into all these issues, because if you have if you have a nuclear war, many lives will be disrupted, and the economic and social order will be disrupted as well. So in one sense, we're all dealing with one issue, that is our livelihoods. All of these issues that we deal with are just ways in which our livelihoods can be disrupted, just the way this pandemic has shown us that it can be disrupted. So we all need to, instead of working in silos, as you've put it, it's important that we all find ways in which we can work together. And this could start as simple as having this discussion, which has opened up all of us to see where do you come from, and what issues are you mostly concerned about, and which issues are people in other parts of the world concerned about as well. So, for example, here in Africa, where there are no nuclear weapons, you might find that most of the audience would have difficulties understanding the topic. But once you start to show the kind of humanitarian consequences that a nuclear weapon will have from another region, just the way COVID-19 that started from outside, say Africa, has had an effect on this continent, it's easy to see how all of us can actually merge into one movement and call for action on all of these issues. Because whether it begins from your country, from your city, it will in one way or the other affect people around the world, and people or affect you if it doesn't start from your place. So I think it's important that we all find a way to have one movement, whether as you continue to work on your issues, you still are part of one big movement that is calling for action on all of the issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Kibet. I might quickly add to that I think it is comes to the point where we have to make a change to the mindset of the people. I think we're living in the time where it has somehow become normal that we accept that our environment is being destroyed or is at risk to be destroyed. It's the same with nuclear weapons and climate change. And to social justice is that we are accepting the suffering of so many people where we are living our daily life. And I think we have to change this mindset where we're just somehow tolerating the suffering and the suffering to come if we continue to let the climate crisis move on, and if we continue to accept the threat of nuclear weapons. So it's very essential to change this mindset, and this is hard work to do, but I think groundwork is what it comes down to. So grassroots activism and speaking to people, always telling the same thing all over again. But at the same time, I think we have to accept that none of us has a superpower, and that we are all just individuals and we have individual interests. And to make a point in a debate, especially as a young person, is always very essential that you are an expert in what you're saying. And we can't be experts in climate change, social justice, and nuclear weapons at the same time, at least not with an age of 25, maybe when we're over 60, but not yet. So I think we have to accept that it is somehow useful to work in silos, because we can at the moment be experts only in one silo, but at the same time we have to somehow build something above these silos that connects us all. This connection brings a lot of motivation to all of us at the same time. Seeing that there are almost 300 people listening now to this discussion is great motivation. So we have to connect all of us above our expertise. I hope you understand what I'm meaning. Thanks.
Great. Hisa, would you like to jump in?
Okay, I would like to talk about two things about how do we manage our movements and make sure we are not working in silos. I think most of us who are trying to tackle some issues are working in silos mostly, like for the time being. And it's quite wasteful because, as I explained in my part, I think pretty much every single problem is like highly connected. So the first thing we have to do is like to share the knowledge, to share the same understanding that every single issue is like somehow connected, so that like whenever like we talk about the things like issue one is like tackling, like for me I'm tackling like climate change. Doesn't mean like I should want me to like neglect to tackle nuclear power, nuclear weapon abolishment, or coronavirus, or like other things, because social justice and also like there are like 17 categories in SDGs, but it looks like they're separate things, but they are all highly connected. So the first thing we have to do is to share the like common understanding that every single issue is highly related, and we shouldn't tackling one thing doesn't mean like we should we should neglect to tackle others. And second thing, also still of course we have to take parts, because not one cannot do everything. It's like a football, not everyone should do like goalie, and there one is goalie and one is like forward, but still like we have the same understanding and we have the same purpose and goal. So we should understand, we should share the common knowledge that every single issue is like connected. And the second thing, it's in my opinion, when we tackle these kind of issues, we many of us always focus on only the system, but I think of course we need drastic system change, but system change cannot comes without people's consciousness. I think it's kind of like the bias. It's like kind of which is fast, chicken one egg. It's the same thing. We need to change people's consciousness at the same time. And in my opinion, I think many of the activists neglect this point, and they always focus on the system. But system, it can be changed because by the government, but we are the ones to choose governments in democracy. And also the companies. Some companies are very powerful and do a lot of bad things, but we are the ones to choose the like companies by just daily shopping, and suddenly like some kind of medias, spread some fake news, but we are the ones to choose like medias, because once we stop watching the medias, like they're gonna be gone. And also the banks as well. We choose banks to put, like deposit our money, but money, like banks are ones to like making profit by lending monies to like nuclear power like nuclear weapon companies or like coal companies. So by changing like people's consciousness, and we carefully choose like the politicians and companies or banks or medias, we can definitely change the world, I believe. That's all from me. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Hisa. Minoru and Chihiro, would you like to jump in on this?
はい、お待たせしました。それぞれの運動を合流していくこととても大切だと思いました。やっぱり政治権力者の力は大きいけれども、私たちが合流して協力協働すればもっと大きな力を出せるということだと思います。で、私も皆さんがお話ししていた通り、それぞれの運動に共通点を見出すことが大事だと思いました。ケルビンが命を守る点では同じ運動だというふうに言っていましたけれども、全く同感です。核兵器の問題も気候の問題も貧困格差の問題も、それぞれの直面している問題、アプローチの仕方は様々だけれども、大きく言えばやっぱり人間の命、人間の尊厳をまっすぐ真ん中に置いて、それを大切にする社会を作るためにそれぞれが運動するということだと感じました。あと、今日皆さんの話を聞いて、互いの運動に学ぶこと、それぞれが違う国で違う条件の下で頑張っている中で、何に直面していて、何を努力しているのか、そこから学ぶべきことは非常に大きいと思いました。ヤスミーンが言っていた女性であって、かつ移民だと。これがこの、アメリカ社会の中でとりわけ、複雑な立場に置かれている、そういうもとでどのように運動を進めていくのかという話は、日本にいてはなかなか、考えることができないテーマでした。そういうものをお互いよく学び合うことは、それぞれの運動を各国で力強く進める力になるし、それが全体として世界中で大きな力を発揮すると感じました。じゃあ、田原さんもぜひ。
私はその合流するためには、お互いの国で、起こっている問題をお互いに理解し合うことが大切だと思いました。そのためには、日本は、世界で唯一の戦争被爆国であるので、被爆の歴史をちゃんと世界にしっかりと伝えていくことが大切だと思いました。
はい、我々からは以上です。ありがとうございました。
Great, thank you. Rachel, would you like to weigh in?
Yes, thank you. I think in terms of breaking the silos on these issues, for one, I think continuing to have conversations like this, I know for me, from my perspective, coming from more of a social justice background, having an opportunity to think about it critically within the scope of nuclear war or climate change is new for me. And so just being able to hear about the work being done in other sectors and then think about how my work can then contribute to their work and amplify their work. I feel like having these conversations allows for knowledge sharing, and it also helps us find sort of the commonalities across all of our different issues. And I just also wanted to add that I think it's important to, we don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. I think it's important to think about how your particular skills and your background also can contribute to someone else's work. And so I think being able to sort of contribute what's already being done in new ways and not being afraid of looking for new actors and new voices to sort of share their ideas and thoughts on sort of the issues that we've been working on for so long, and being able to kind of open up the conversations a bit can help us kind of continue to work across silos.
Great, thanks, Rachel. And last but certainly not least, Yasmeen, would you like to weigh in on this question?
Definitely. So I think I touched on this briefly in my opening remarks, that this issue certainly does not exist in a silo. At Beyond the Bomb, we like to think of it as issue 0. And what we mean by that is it's kind of in the background. It's not something that a lot of people think about every day, and yet it touches on almost every aspect of life. If you think about climate change, for example, the US military is the largest polluter in the world, which means that if you care about climate change, you care about nuclear weapons and cutting the military budget. Because if we do that, then there's less fossil fuels expended. I think, again, with COVID-19, we're seeing that a misplacement of, I think it all comes back to money, and that's really where we can link this, is a misappropriation of funds means that people aren't getting healthcare they need. And so really at the end of the day, what it comes down to is learning about what other issues are happening in your community, and finding a link between them because they exist, and showing up. I think as Rachel said, having these conversations are so important because you're talking to one person at a time, and broadening their knowledge on the issue, which means that they in turn can go and have conversations. And so really learning what other movements are happening in your community and getting out there and engaging with them, because at the end of the day, all of these issues are connected. And so if we're helping uplift one right now for those most vulnerable, we're helping our cause as well.
Thank you so much, Yasmeen. That was a great way of ending that question. And we just have one more question from the moderators, and then we will dive into participant questions. So keep putting them in the Q&A, should be at the bottom of your screen. And we're really excited to hear from you all. So the next question for everybody is, what advice do you have for young activists who would like to get more involved? I think you all started to go over this question and all of your answers already, but maybe if you just want to give a short, 2-sentence blurb about how people can get involved in your specific movement. So please take it away, Franca and Kelvin.
So, hello. Yes. So I think for everyone here, young, and I think it's important to have two things. Use your background as a focal point. So if you're coming from a scientific point of view, if you're a doctor, you're a political climate activist, use your background as an anchor point for what you speak for. And then most importantly, gather as much knowledge on the topic as possible. Because what you've seen from the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War and other movements that are fighting for nuclear disarmament, it's what your knowledge and your scientific evidence that usually persuades people. We've won the Nobel Peace Prize before through our campaign and also through organization, because we were able to highlight the humanitarian consequences from a scientific point of view. So I think for everyone here, it's important that you look for sources of knowledge that are credible, and then use this knowledge to persuade others and to persuade fellow politicians to take the action that you want them to take. And lastly, of course, is let's join efforts, because alone you can go only so far, but together you can go very, very far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelvin. Franca, would you like to tune in?
Yeah, sure. I don't have much to add other than I have personally made the experience that when you start getting engaged, you feel a little bit shy to build your own opinion on a big topic such as nuclear weapons or climate change. But don't be shy. There is a lot of knowledge that you can access. There are people willing to explain and willing to let you learn. Feel free to enter the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons, the ICANN. I've sent around the website, and also for everyone who has a medical background, also nurses and pharmacists are happy to join IPPNW, also the student movement. But build your own opinion and don't be shy to tackle topics that seem far away from you at the first sight. So stand up and don't let you be tackled down by the strength of these topics when you start entering it.
Thank you so much, Franca. Hisa, would you like to join in on advice you would give for young activists who would like to get more involved?
Okay. I think if you want to get involved, I think you should keep like dispatching information. Like it was very difficult decades ago, but currently luckily we have SNS, so you should keep like dispatching information so that you can be found. Like me, like I was like giving lectures all over Japan, and also I was dispatching information through SNS, and I was found by like people. That's why like I'm here today. And one thing like it's my opinion, but one thing like I would like to remind you that when you are like dispatching information, you have to be seen and you have to get attention. So if you want to keep like, if you keep just focusing on what you are interested in, like nuclear weapons or climate change, trust me, not many people are interested in the same issue you are interested in. So for me, I started from something like I think like everybody was interested in, like a plastic problem, like pet balls or like just shopping bags. That's everybody uses like pet ball in the plastic bag, but like there is a big problem. It can cause like it goes to like oceans and it becomes microplastic, and it goes like back to you like through water or like fish, and women can get breast cancer from it, and men can like have problem with your genitals. So like I started from there, and everybody, I got attention from people. So like, and then like I started talking about the real issue I wanted to focus on. So keep just dispatching information so that you can be found. And when you are sending information, make sure sometimes once in a while you send the information which is highly related to their interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hisa. Next up, we have Minoru and Chihiro.
はい、私は自分が世界を変えている力になっていると思うと本当に楽しいし、とても誇らしい気持ちになります。それは一人一人が歴史を作っていると思うからです。
アドバイスというほどでもないんですけど、やっぱり自分たちに社会を変える力があるんだってことはぜひみんなに伝えたいと思っています。人類の歴史って長いですけど、そういう一人一人の行動が歴史を作ってきたわけです。100年前までは戦争は合法だったけど、今は戦争は違法だというのが世界のルールになっているし、日本では75年前まで女性に参政権はありませんでした。それからつい日本で18歳選挙権が実現したのは4年前です。これも全部一人一人がやっぱり行動してきたから実現してきたことです。そういう意味でどんな活動にせよ一人の一歩がそれだけ大きな力があるんだ、これはぜひ皆さん自信にして自分の一歩を大事にしていただきたいなというふうに思っています。以上です。ありがとうございました。
Great. Thank you both so much. Next up, we have Rachel. Rachel, what advice do you have for young activists who would like to get more involved?
So I think it's really important to first educate yourself on these issues. Right now, we're living in a time when there's a lot of misinformation being circulated around COVID or any of these other issues. So I think it's important to make sure that the information you're getting is from a credible source, as Kelvin mentioned earlier, and also that, from people you can rely on. But I think it can also be a little bit intimidating sometimes when you're a young person to sort of go up against large governments or large institutions or large corporations. And so I think it's important to really start from where you are. And right now, we're all living in a time when we all have access to the internet for the most part. And there's so much you can do, even just from online. You can join an online hackathon. You can join SDG groups. You can join groups for your community online. There's so many things you can do simply from the internet if you can't necessarily go out in your community and begin. But you can also start small with, whether it's an event or some sort of advocacy just within your immediate community, whether you're living in a small village or living in a big city. But I also do want to mention it can be important to talk to the people who've already done the work that you're trying to do, whether that's getting a mentor or sort of finding out ways that you can help with movements that have already started and need help from young people, or movements that have been going on for a really long time who need young, fresh perspectives. And so I think there's so many ways that your perspective and your voice and your ideas are important. And there's so many ways to go about sort of contributing to ideas that have already kind of taken shape and have started happening. So those are some of my thoughts on that.
Great, thank you so much, Rachel. And last we have Yasmeen.
Thanks. I think a lot of what I want to say has already been said, so I'll keep it brief. But really, once you start educating yourself or looking online, you will find so many groups and organizations and people who are just as passionate as you about this issue. And I promise that if you reach out, they will likely respond and respond enthusiastically. I know that getting involved, that can be one of the scarier things, but I know that's how I got my start in activism and organizing, was reaching out for, as Rachel said, a mentor, and learning from them, and then taking actions on my own. At Beyond the Bomb, we obviously encourage people to get involved, whether that's around the country or within their community, with like-minded folks to take actions. I think it's always, groups are always more powerful, not only because you're brainstorming together, but you also have more of an impact. And so, yeah, I think that's bottom line. My advice would be, whatever issue you're most interested in, reach out and find folks who you admire their work, or who you know are just as passionate as you to get your start, and look to those who've come before you for help when you need it.
Great. Thank you so much, Yasmeen, for wrapping up that question. So we're now going to start opening up and addressing some of the audience questions that have been submitted. I'd like to start with this question from an attendee from Japan. Thank you to Anna Ikeda, who translated it for us. It says, I'm from Japan. I participate in a peace group, but I cannot help but feel generational differences when interacting with my older colleagues who have been engaged in activism when it comes to nuclear abolition, social justice, economic justice, etc. How can we close the gap? So I know this is something I've also observed in my own organizing as well, and I'm sure pretty much everyone on the panel has experience dealing with this. So how do we close that gap? I don't know if anyone wants to jump in first, or if we can go in the same order. But.
Hi, Emily. Could go first.
Perfect. Kelvin, take it away.
Yeah, I think I also faced the same challenges as well when I joined IPPNW. But what I realized quickly was, once you have your facts right and you have passion, I think everyone will be able to listen. Because there's so much information out there, but because of your age and obviously the time you have, probably your studies and the other things that you have to deal with, it becomes difficult for you to gain as much knowledge as experts and probably older people. But if you take time to listen to look up the evidence and the topic that you want to be passionate about, it becomes easy for people to listen to you. And obviously the passion you bring in and new ideas are almost always welcome sometimes. What is important is that you keep persisting on your opinions and find ways in which you can connect with other people. For example, older people usually have challenges with social media, but that's been seen now as a way of reaching out to many people. So previously, if you wanted to give speeches like this and conferences like this, it would not be possible if you're going to give to an older generation. But now more and more people are accepting that young people have new ideas that are acceptable, and many of them are also very knowledgeable in the topic. So I think just gather as much knowledge as possible and use your passion to reach out to your fellow older experts.
Thank you so much, Kelvin. Yasmeen, would you like to weigh in on this?
Sure. So I cut my audio cut out for a bit. So if I misunderstood the question, please correct me. I think I experienced this a lot in that when you're, as I mentioned, young and a woman, you're seen as potentially not knowing as much. Whether that comes from an expert community, as Calvin was mentioning, so people who have a really intimate knowledge of nuclear weapon systems and so then therefore feel that their opinion is more valid, or folks who have dedicated their life to this and have been going about it in a certain way. I think that we as young people bring not only imagination and fresh perspective, but a will to try and fail and understand that we will keep going to reach our goal. And that can't be underestimated, that it is really crucial for any movement to be nimble and to try new things, because governments, countries, political landscapes are always changing. And if we don't adapt, we're not going to achieve our goal. And so never underestimate, never think your idea is too crazy or out there, because even if you fail, you are trying to push the movement forward. And I think that at the end of the day is the most important thing.
Great, thank you, Yasmeen. I completely agree. Before we move to our next question, I'm wondering if Minoru and Chihiro would like to weigh in on this.
どうぞ。
私たちのような若い人は先輩方の話に耳を傾けて、先輩たちは私たちのような若い人に耳を傾けてもらって、お互いに理解し合うことが大切だと思います。
多くの人が世代間のギャップを感じているかもしれません。私もよく感じます。でも大事だなと思っていることは、やっぱり世代を超えて力を合わせることでこそ大きな力が出るということです。先輩たちにはやっぱり私たちにはない大きな経験を持っていて、これは本当に学ぶべきものが多いわけです。で同時に私たちの世代は私たちの世代の中でこの運動を広げる力を持っている。これは事実だと思うんです。だから世代を超えて協力することで全ての世代をカバーできる、そういう運動を作れると思うので、ここはそういう角度で考えていくことが大事だなというふうに思っています。あとはお互いのそういう立場を尊重してしっかり話し合うことです。とにかく我々は経験がないから自信を持って発言するっていうことが難しくなる時があるんだけれども、先輩たちも若者の声を聞きたいと思っている方が多数だと思うので、自信を持って発言していくことが大事だというふうに思っています。以上です。
Great, thank you both so much. We are going to move on to the next question to make sure we have enough time to answer as many as possible. So the next question is, what are your thoughts on nuclear energy? Based on my research, solar, wind, and other renewable resources of energy are not widespread or capable of fueling the United States. How do you see nuclear energy playing a role in the transition from fossil fuels to quote unquote clean energy, or should there be none? I will leave that message, and who would like to answer first from the panelists?
Can I go?
Yes, please.
Can I go? Firstly, I do not like the name, like people call the water or wind or solar energy as like clean energy, because no like energy is like clean. Every single way to make energy has like the counts. So of course like every single one has got bad points, but still like we have to, so the first thing we have to do is to reduce the amount of energy we are using, because it depends on the country, but mostly, well, I think all of the developed country use like too much energy. So the first thing we have to do is like to reduce them. And secondly, still like we need some energy, so we have to choose one. So we have to compare the pros and cons. And fossil fuel is like out of the options because of the climate change now. And in my opinion, the nuclear power plants have been proven like twice in Chernobyl and Fukushima, it's like too dangerous to be in options. So I think we have to, well, we have no choice but to choose like the renewable energies, especially like water in kind of small scales. There are like kind of 7 countries which reached 100% renewable energy in the world, like Norway or like Portugal or like Costa Rica. And the countries like them, 50% to 80% of the energy are made like from water. So I think water energy is the key to the answer. But first thing we have to do is to reduce the amount of energy we are using now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hisa. Next up for this question is Franca. Franca, please take it away.
Thanks, Hisa. I would just like to make a few quick additions to what you said, that it's just too dangerous to use nuclear power plants on a larger scale, as we've seen in history. Additionally to that, it is highly expensive to build these power plants, and the amount of carbon dioxide and other climate active gases to produce these power plants is also quite important and has often been let out in these calculations. Unfortunately, I don't have any numbers right now with me, but I would like to refer you to one campaign, Don't Nuke the Climate, where you can access some of these numbers. One more thought that I would like to throw into this discussion is the thing of uranium mining. If you would like to use nuclear power plants on a larger scale, you would also need to have more uranium. And the uranium mining sites all over the world are putting a lot of harm to the people working there and to the environment. And if we need more uranium, we need to dig deeper. We need to the concentration of uranium gets less in the soil. We need to take out more soil. This will again destroy more and more environment. So for me, it is quite clear that nuclear power plants are not a solution to the climate crisis.
Thank you very much, Franca.
Thank you so much. Does anybody else want to take on this question before we go to the next one? Okay, great. Emily, please give the next audience question. Thank you.
Yes, we've gotten a few related to COVID-19, unsurprisingly. So one is from Nishan Ali and says, how do we tackle the racism that has come up with COVID-19? We see people being divided and media promoting it for political propaganda, especially in Southeast Asia. I would add definitely in the United States as well. And another more general question open to all panelists. What are some tools that you can share for taking action on these issues post-COVID, or I would even argue in this current moment? What are some tools we could be using? So maybe Rachel, if you're comfortable starting with that, addressing the racism, and then if anyone else wants to jump in, please raise your hand. But yeah.
For sure. So I think, especially racism in terms of the COVID epidemic, I think, for one, I think education destroys ignorance, right? And so in terms of all the misinformation being spread and not knowing enough about who these groups are that we're trying to sort of target and use as scapegoats for COVID, I think educating each other and sharing information that there isn't one particular place or group of people that have sort of started the COVID pandemic. And I think if we sort of shift our mindset from trying to find someone to blame for this pandemic, whether we're blaming them for the origin or the spreading of the pandemic, shifting from that to problem solving. And so I think a lot of the ignorance, especially like the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans in the United States, or the mistreatment of Africans in Asia for COVID, I think shifting our minds from saying, okay, who do we blame? Who do we sort of target? Who do we persecute for spreading and creating this problem for us? To sort of just saying, okay, well, race aside, everyone's being affected by this pandemic. So then how do we solve it? And I think sort of having that shift in mindset paired with education that combats ignorance about these groups, and essentially, you know, disseminating the message that we're all having this collective experience. It's not sort of anyone's fault. It's not, we can't sort of just keep one group off to the side to stop the spread of it. And so I think understanding that we're all sort of this collective humanity in this global community, and that we have to come together to solve the problem and not look for someone to blame, is part of sort of addressing some of the race issues that have kind of resulted from this COVID pandemic.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That was beautifully said, and I completely agree. Would any of the other panelists like to weigh in on this, either specifically the racism aspect of the effect of COVID, or how we continue organizing through this pandemic and after it? What changes?
I can hop in
Great.
briefly.
Yeah, perfect.
So in terms of racism and other discrimination that we're seeing under COVID, whether that's lack of access to healthcare, lack of information on how this impacts different folks, I think this kind of drives home the point that I was making before, that in our work, we should always be working to lift up those most vulnerable, regardless of whether or not there's a crisis. Because if we're putting in the work beforehand, before we're at a critical moment, we're bettering it so we can weather that storm much better as we're going through it. So integrating racial justice and social justice within your climate or nuclear work, I think, is so important. As I mentioned in my initial speech, there are communities who are suffering from environmental racism because of nuclear weapons and nuclear weapon systems around the world. So that work should definitely be integrated regardless. In terms of how we are organizing during and post-COVID, I think that this truly is at least in the United States, I can speak to that context best, a turning point. I don't believe we'll be returning to a new normal. I think that we as everyday people have an opportunity to be pushing our elected officials, to be moving the needle on issues in a way that seemed unimaginable even a few months ago. We understand that the status quo wasn't working. I think a lot of elected officials are beginning to understand that. And so actions you can be taking right now is reaching out to those elected officials. From what I've been hearing in the United States, elected officials are actually more accessible now because they are checking their email, they are answering their phones, because it's the only interaction they can have with constituents now. So that's a way. But regardless of where you live, again, governments are reckoning with the fact that their priorities have been misplaced. They are not equipped to handle this crisis. They've been overextending themselves militarily, which hasn't worked for national security. And so as much as we can push that message, the better we can reset our priorities and achieve our goals.
Great, thank you, Yasmeen. Thank you to everybody who answered that question. We're going to move on to another question from Anne Shine. Anne said, I am at university and I have found it incredibly difficult to get students interested in the nuclear issue, specifically with the vast amount of other important and worthwhile interests and movements on campus. What strategies can be used and how can I make the nuclear weapons issue resonate with our students? Who would like to take that question? I think while the question is specifically about university students, if you want to broaden it to young people in general, please feel free to do so. Who would like to go first?
I can give it a try.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Franca.
At least start the conversation, because I do feel the same. It's incredibly difficult. However, I've made the experiences that if you link it to topics that are interesting to people at the moment, that are probably in the news or that are generally very moving on campus, you can achieve some more interest. So on the one side, I would try to explain why nuclear weapon, the topic, is so important. What other, as we've discussed before, what other crises and questions link into the debate about nuclear weapons, whether it is gender, as Yasmeen explained so well, whether it's the gender debate, that the nuclear weapon stakeholders are always seen as masculine and the victims as feminine, etc. Whether it's the climate crisis with the military budget and their footprint. And secondly, I would maybe try to provoke a little bit, so to because I've had one comment in the chat that we somehow got used to the threat of nuclear weapons. And I think we have to change that. At the one side, people don't think about nuclear weapons in their everyday life, which is fine. They shouldn't do. But it seems like these weapons are very far away. They are, for us, somehow a thing from history class, not from our everyday life. So to take this topic back into the everyday life of people, maybe even in the everyday life on campus, is one other strategy that I will propose. For example, with some street acting, with drawings, with be creative. I think provoking and linking it to other topics might be one strategy. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Franca.
Everyone else jump in if you have other.
May I have a go?
Yes, Hisa, please keep the lead.
Sorry. Oh, maybe Kelvin commented that he's going next.
You could go first, Hisa. Go first.
Sorry. Thank you. Even though my main issue is like climate change and the nuclear weapon, but I think like most of us who are tackling the tackling issues like have the same kind of problem in common, like how to tell people or how to involve people. But for me, like what I'm being careful of, like when I try to tell about climate change, the first thing is we should understand that like the opposite side of righteousness is not wrong or evil. It's another righteousness. The definition of righteousness depends on people, like the person, and it varies from person to person. So the first thing we have to be careful of is like we do not force people because they have their own freedom and rights. So we just like respect them, like what they do or how they think. Because if we force them, then they're gonna be even like enemies and they're gonna hate you. So the first thing we have to be careful of is like we do not force them. But still, of course, like we have to involve them to tackle the issues. So, I think I'm being careful, but I enjoy myself as much as possible, and people really love fun. So if I'm enjoying myself, they start copying me, and even though people hate being forced, people love like copying, and if you start copying people, then it can last forever. So, like for example, when we do like climate march, we try not to like deny or attack anything, and we try to enjoy ourselves as much as possible. So during the march, people like the passengers or people just nearby get involved because they follow us because they think it's very, very fun. They don't understand what we are tackling or they don't understand the purpose, but people like start following us and we get more people. And in the end, like they ask me like why we are doing it, and we tell them the purpose and we tell them like why we are doing it. And then like the people who followed us are doing the activities like even together now. So the first thing is do not force others because you're going to be hated. And the second thing is you enjoy yourself as much as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, may I go, Molly?
Yes, Kelvin, take it away.
Yes. So as part of ways of letting people know is that the humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons are really devastating, and it touches about almost all of the topics that we are touching today. We've done a study at IPPNW that shows that if just a small clash between two small cities, say India or Pakistan, happen with nuclear weapons, there will be almost 2 billion people being put at risk of poverty and the risk of hunger. And also there'll be nuclear winter because of the amount of ashes that will be released into the atmosphere that will put the whole world into what we'll call nuclear winter. So that touches on how much it will destroy the climate and how much the people will be sent into poverty. That's part of what you talk about in economic justice. And the people will be at most risk will be the most poorest people in the world who may not be able to cope up with this situation. And that will just go to show how many people, say, in Africa or South Asia will be affected if such a small clash would happen. And as you all know, the kind of nuclear weapons we have at the moment is 100 times, each one of them is more than 100 times stronger than the ones we had in 1945. And I understand the one who asked this question is because most of us are born after the Cold War, after the nuclear war had happened in 1945 and after the Cold War in 1980. So many of us may not really understand the topic or relate to the topic, but we are young people. We can use very creative ways. We've seen how creative people can be on topics that have almost no relatability at all. And if you see how the international campaign to abolish nuclear weapons did the campaign in 2017, it's just really reaching to ordinary people's lives, going to churches, going to schools, reaching out to ordinary people's lives and showing how such a big topic relates to them personally. And I would just like to share that we once went to India and spoke to students as young as 10 years old about nuclear weapons. And they were so much interested, which gave us so much motivation that if actually 9 people in grade 9, grade 10 would be interested in such big topics, then us youth would actually surely be interested in these topics. Yeah, so I think we can, because we are young people, we can be very creative and just show them how much these topics relate to every one of the big issues: economic, social, and climate change. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Kelvin. Minoru and Chihiro, would you like to answer this one too?
私は広島・長崎で起こった被爆の歴史をしっかりと学ぶことだと思います。それで歴史を学んで核兵器の恐ろしさを知ったら、自然と核兵器をなくしたいという思いになるはずだと考えます。そして私たちが行ってきた折り鶴プロジェクトのように、核兵器をなくすための楽しい企画を考えていって、それで核兵器の存在について知ってもらうことが大切だと思います。
最初の私の発言に加えて言うと、実は問いかけてみることが大事ではないかと思っています。どうやってみんなに分かってもらうかということを考えるときに、実はどうこの自分のメッセージを伝えるかということを考えがちですけれども、実際はあなたはどう思うかということを聞いてみることが必要だと思っています。で、例えば核兵器をなくしたいと思うかと聞いてみたら、なくしたいと思う人もいるし、なくしたくないと思う人、あるいはなくせないんじゃないかって考える人はそれぞれいると思う。で、そういう人たちはそれぞれ理由を持ってるわけですよね。被爆者の話を聞いてなくしたいと思ったとか、そうは言っても他の国々の脅威との関係でなくせないんじゃないかと考えている人もいるわけです。そういう話が出てくれば、これは対話のチャンスで、そこからお互いの考えを交流しながら、どうやったら前に進んでいけるか、糸口が見えてくると思うんです。だからまず自分のメッセージを伝えるということをやる上でも、聞いてみる、問いかけてみる、あなたはどう考えるかということを働きかけてみることを大事にしています。以上です。ありがとうございました。
Great. Thank you all so much for responding to those questions. I think that we are now going to bring it to a close. So I invite Rebecca Irby to join in and make some closing comments and a poll for when we will do our regional breakout sessions. And right before that, all of the panelists are going to take a photo. So if all the panelists could turn on their videos, thank you all.
Great. Smile. Everyone say peace.
Peace.
Waiting on one more person. Hi.
Take it away, Rebecca.
Awesome. Okay, excellent. Well, first and foremost, I think this has been such a tremendous gathering, and we are so excited to continue this conversation. I want to take a moment and thank our amazing panelists and moderators for leading us in this discussion. So our next steps are going to be regional breakout sessions where we will come back together in a similar sized group, but we will have it broken down by regions and language so that we can work on actual next steps and organizing. Emily, if you could put up the poll, there we go. We'd like to know from you so that as many people as possible can participate. So we have 2 dates going right now. We'll leave this up until the end, and then we will post and say, or actually, let's see what comes through, and then if most of us can vote, then we will have a decision as to which weekend it will be. So far, it looks like next weekend or next Saturday is the chosen date, but let's see what we get. And then secondly, what we would like you all to think about over the next week are ideas about how to organize. So the object of this regional breakout is to start working on our unified movement. The way it will work, we will welcome everyone. We will go directly into our regional breakouts. We will have a list of questions and a facilitated discussion with points that we want to get through. So how do we organize? Do we see a name for our unified movement? And what action steps are we going to take moving forward in our particular region? We will then ask that each regional group pick a speaker, and then we will all come back together, share what we discussed, and from there, open it back up like we did today for questions and getting people to sign off on what they will join in and what they will do. This will be explained in more detail once we have, once we are there in person, and it looks like 61% of us want to do May 9th, next Saturday. So next Saturday, we will be back here, same time, same place. We will send out information to all registrants about how to get on, what the link is. And also, lastly, the questions that we were unable to get to today, the organizers and panelists will be spending the next week working on those answers, having them posted on our social media, as well as on our website. So I just want to, again, take a moment and thank everyone who's been involved, but most of all, thank everyone who has joined us today. And we hope that you stay engaged. The only way for us to move forward and get all of this work done is if we do it together. Thank you.